Welcome to the 10-Minute Life Coach Program. My name is Jay Cleveland Payne. I train people for improved personal and professional development, offering my assistance for those ready to develop their goals into tangible, focused, and achievable plans of action. And this podcast is one tool I use to complete that mission. Now, in this podcast, you will get in 10 minutes time. Yes, when 10 minutes ticks off in this podcast, you will get a full, complete life lesson, personal development lesson, a lesson that you can take along with you and develop and implement into your life pretty much right here, right now, as soon as you're done listening at the 10-minute mark. And then we also make sure that the lessons we do have, if there's something that aren't a brand new idea, an epiphany, if you will, for you, it's something that reinforces some great thing you're already doing. If it's an idea that you already got in place that doesn't seem to be working quite yet, it reminds you that it is just a matter of time until it gets to kick in. For more information about personal coaching and getting more one-on-one work with me, check out the website, 10minutelifecoach.com. Now, today we have sort of a whimsical type topic, but it's something that's very important. It's about your support system, your team, the guys that you have in your corner, whether it's your one-on-one team, your family directly, or just the friends you have around that give you support, or the people you have building your business or your personal development process. Your team members have to be all on the same page. That should be an obvious thought, an obvious idea that people would pretty much take for granted, if you will. But there is always issues with some people who would love to support you and actually are doing their best to give you support in their own way, but would rather you not be so ambitious. And this is different from the folks who are trying to cut you down because they're afraid of, you leaving them or you being better than them and they don't want to improve. They just assume they're just great the way they are. And even though they have taken on the task of helping you be a better person, they would be, much more happier in life and in work in the process if you decided to be a little less ambitious. For a good illustration, let's go back to 80s televisions, 80s sitcoms to be exact. And while Bill Cosby may have made a sort of soiled name for himself in these current years, back in the day, he was still pioneering comedian and pioneering actor and made the pioneering leap of creating the show named after himself, The Cosby Show, which offered a depiction of a upper middle class black family, which did exist in that time and day, but for many people was not something they saw regularly and did not see definitely on television. It was a man who was a successful doctor married to a woman who was a successful lawyer and their, general kids being kids. But all in all, everything was great in the family. Everyone loved each other. There was no fights, no outward animosity, and everybody came together when the time came. A vast contrast is a sitcom like Married with Children, which offered up a very different set of circumstances for the family. It was probably made to be the atypical crazy family taken on steroids, where you have a man who was successful way back when, a longtime sports star in high school, then came upon, life and now was barely making it as a shoe salesman at the mall. His wife didn't work, didn't clean, didn't do very much anything but get on the guy's nerves all the times. And the kids, while one was beautiful but very dumb, the other one not so great, but apparently the smart one of the bunch, but pretty much a loser. It was a show that depicted what happens when you take the worst aspects of a personality and made them the main aspects of a person's personality. In fact, made them more or less the best thing they had going for them. It was a show that showed loving interests at various times, but the bulk of the humor was the fact that all four members of the family were essentially going at each other, and the neighbors as well, essentially going at each other, sniping at each other at any given moment. Now, comparing the Huxtables to the Bundys is a very sharp contrast in fake TV, of course. Remember, these were scripted dramas, so everything was made to be perfect or imperfect on purpose for the story part. But you can use this as a very, very simple analogy to how you may be seeing your life going versus how you may be dealing with people on your team, people on your side. You may think you're trying to build a family of Huxtables, everybody pulling together, doing their best at all times and wanting to succeed and basically exceed at what's going on. But in actuality, you have a group of Bundys in the midst that are pretty much happy being on the losing side, pretty much happy not having to put so much effort into things because they don't have to. The work is not worth it. The time is not worth it. The effort, obviously not worth it. So when you're looking at the comparison, your Huxtables versus your Bundys, making sure that all the folks that you think are Huxtables are actually that and not, a group of Bundys, it becomes a bit of a challenge. So what do you do to, number one, out those people who are not exactly pulling for you? In fact, they may actually be pulling against you because they don't want to go so high. Well, you don't necessarily want to do a straight-up confrontation, fronting them and asking them questions, because that could be embarrassing. That could also cause a lot of strife, especially if you're talking about very close family members, especially if you're talking about a spouse who says they love you and wants the best for you, but they believe that all that hard extra work is just adding up to nothing. So why are we putting out all the stress and maybe the money to make this thing happen? That will never happen. So you don't want to cause that sort of incident, that sort of strife, if there's no other underlying problems that need to be dealt with on that end. But you do want to have conversations about the goals and the way you're trying to progress to make those goals happen, the work you're trying to make happen in moving forward. It needs to be a very clear line of communication with all those involved in making the things you're trying to make, in doing the things you're trying to do. Everyone who's actually having a hand in what's being done should know exactly what's being done and why it's important that they step up and do their part to their part. And if they have the ability to step up and do even more, that'd be awesome as well. Now, if these are people who actually are contributing very little to the actual point of success, and then their opinion doesn't particularly matter all that much, and their efforts, unless they're actively working against you, don't particularly matter very much. You need to kind of squash anybody who's working out there to undermine your activities. That, number one, is a big thing. So if someone is really doing things that are to your detriment, to your face, then yes, you have that confrontation, you have that conversation, you work that thing out as quickly as possible and get them out of the way. But if they're just sort of lying around and just kind of in the cut, just being there, sniping every so often because they want to make sure that they're heard in conversation, then they're not doing very much for the actual efforts you're trying to put forward. So don't focus so much on that and them. Let them be what they be, let them do what they do, and just let that part go. Now, once you've decided to talk to the people who are actively active in working towards your goals, you make sure they are up to the task of doing the things you're expecting them to do. Because maybe the problem is you thought you married a Huxtable, but you married a Bundy. Maybe you thought you grabbed in someone that was really going towards the top, but in actuality, they just kind of like staying in the middle or towards the low end, and you just didn't really think about that or didn't see that in the process as you were getting into the courting stage and jumped ahead. So maybe the problem, as it is oftentimes, is really you. Maybe the problem is you see yourself at a higher level or think you're going at a higher level at faster progression. And in actuality, your team, your support can't really handle that action. In that case, we're not telling you that your thoughts and your dreams are worth dropping down to lower levels, but we do think you may need to slow down the pace a bit for those actors helping you work these things out. The strongest chain in the world will always have a fault in the weakest link that's there, and that will be the place where you find your issues, where things will not stay taut. So if you have some weak links in your chain, you need to just address them, see how things are going, and see that maybe if you slowed yourself down a bit, slowing the pace down so you get there just slightly behind schedule, maybe it's not so bad. The big thing is, it's great that you have grand ideas and thoughts and plans and actions. It's great that you have people around you who want to support you and help you make these things happen. But it doesn't get so great when you find out those people have separate motives. And some of those motives may be to hopefully assume you may slow down your actions because you're going a bit too fast for them. Have the conversations you need to do with your team. Make sure the team members you have can do what you want them to do. If not, find things for them to do that they can do to help you accomplish what's going on. And if they don't get on board, if they just can't keep up with the pace, you may have to see about eliminating them from the team. That just might be the reality you are facing in this case. And that's this edition of the 10-Minute Life Coach. Thank you very much for listening in for the podcast. Of course, podcast is pretty much everywhere podcasts are. So we ask you to subscribe so you don't miss out on episodes, and leave ratings and reviews wherever it is you pod from. Apple, iTunes, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, whatever Apple is. I don't use Apple, so I can't tell you exactly where it is. I do know it is listed in iTunes and Apple Podcasts. So a 5-star review in that venue, which is, even though, like I said, I don't use Apple, it's still the top ranking for all these things that we use. So Apple Podcasts and iTunes, a 5-star review there would be awesome. A review anywhere else. We're on Stitcher, we're on Spreaker, we're on Google Play, where it's various different places. And, of course, if you go to the website, there's a link to just get the RSS feed, and you can pull us down on whatever podcast reader that you like yourself, podcast feed reader that you enjoy. Take it along and use it for your own personal use. Mix it in with the podcast you already have. Thank you so much for that. Stop by our website, 10-Minute Life Coach, for more information about things that are going on inside of the program. And you can sign up right now and join the 10-Minute Life Coach, and you'll get an 8-day free trial in the subscription, and then it's $10 a month beyond that. Now, at the moment, I'll have to be honest, there's nothing in the website for the 10-Minute Life Coach. However, it's being worked on. We're being creating our content, creating the pages there. And if you've just been a long-time supporter of the podcast and the other issues we have, if you will just go ahead, if you have the means and if the spirit moves you to go ahead and sign up and help support the things that we'll have kicked off will go a bit smoother and much quicker. Now, what we'll have for the $10 Life Coach is a community of us. The people coming in are basically paying for coffee and paying for space, and we'll have a community where we can talk to each other, work with each other, and do great things for each other. And if I do have any programs or coaching things coming out anytime soon, you get to see them first. You'll get to see them for a very, very big discount. And in most cases, you'll see them just for free or the cost of admission to the group. So check out the 10-Minute Life Coach at the website, check out the $10 Life Coach, should say, at the website, 10minutelifecoach.com, and see if you're ready to help me get that big help out as well. Other than that, there's no really big squashing breaking news for the week. We're doing our best to work through a couple of issues. I got some personal things going on that are slowing things down at the moment, but we're doing our best to make sure everything is working and rocking and rolling. We're not missing episodes, not missing issues, and not missing any big things. The other big thing that we do have is I'm trying to focus more on one-on-one coaching via phone, via text, via chat, if you will. And we'll be setting up a very, hopefully robust method for making that happen in the very, very near future. In the meantime, you can find information on getting in touch with me for one-on-one coaching and accountability coaching, which is what my main thing will be focused on at the website as well. For more information on the other projects going on, check out jclevelandpayne.net. And once again, thank you for being a part of this podcast, part of the community. And we'll be back next week with another great 10-minute life lesson. You can listen and take it away just like that from the 10-Minute Life Coach.